What is the Garden of Light? We understand that some people just need religion. A flock needs a shepherd, but they don't like all the negativity and bigotry that comes with so many churches and religions. So we wanted something different, very different, from most mainstream religions. While most of us were raised Christian, we no longer believe in the Christian God. This is when we realized that maybe what we were looking for is who we believe Jesus really was. Because we believe science before religion, we believe that Jesus was born through parthenogenesis, which is when offspring is created without male genetic contributions. It was 2 of Mary's eggs that resulted in the conception of Jesus. We do not believe that divine intervention was involved in his creation. Thus, he must have been transgender because he had to have been born AFAB or assigned female at birth, yet identified as a man. He was pansexual because he had both a male and a female love interest. We all know about Mary Magdalene, thanks to Dan Brown. But he didn't come up with that idea. It was around longer than the Da Vinci Code. The different Gospels also mention the disciple that Jesus loved. This is mentioned a few times in the Gospel of John. His love for John made Jesus polyamorous as well. Now keep in mind that this is our interpretation of different religious texts and other historical documents that we have read, in addition to online resources. But wait, there is more. Jesus was effectively homeless during his ministry. And as a child, he lived as a refugee. He relied on the kindness of strangers to survive and teach his message of love. Jesus lived a life of poverty to show us that we need to help others. He helped the blind to see, the lame to walk, and he fed the hungry. The worst of it is that he was intentionally unalived. We believe he is the child of the mother goddess Asherah and the morning star. We do not believe he was the son of Yahweh, nor was he meant to be a sacrifice, because what kind of sacrifice would he have truly been if this was the case? If he knew he was going to come back, then it wasn't a sacrifice. Okay, let me explain it this way. I'm going to use the theories put forth by another religion. I'm sure you can figure out which religion this is. If a God, any God, who is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving, and all-merciful, creates a species and gives them free will to do anything their little hearts desire, but being all-knowing knows they will commit evil, will hate and cause pain to others of that species, then condemns them for the acts that he knows before they were even born will commit, then creates a place of punishment for that species, for the acts he knows they will commit before they are born, so is creating babies only to condemn them. This is an all-loving God who requires sacrifices to justify forgiving sins that they committed because this God decided they were sins. This all-loving God would also require people to be unalived according to his laws for the most ridiculous things. A few of them, including the verses that specify them, are striking or cursing one's father or mother, Exodus 21:15, Leviticus 20 verse 9, being a false prophet or dreamer of dreams, Deuteronomy 13 verse 1 through 5, wearing clothing made of both wool and linen, Deuteronomy 22 verse 11, cross-dressing, Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, eating or drinking anything unclean, Leviticus 11, verse 10 through 13. Deuteronomy 14:8. Touching the holy offerings while unclean, Leviticus 22, 3 through 9. Consuming blood, Leviticus 17, verse 10 through 14. Cursing God, Leviticus 24, 10 through 16. Working on the Sabbath, Exodus 31, verse 14 and 15. Failing to circumcise one's male children, Genesis 17, verse 14. Offering blemished sacrifices, Leviticus 22, verse 20 through 25. Eating leavened bread during the feast of unleavened bread, Exodus 12, verse 15. Then this immortal, all-knowing being attempts to destroy that species that commits all kinds of evil, though the Bible never describes those evil deeds. And for all we know, the wickedness of the human race could have simply been not worshiping him, or at least not enough for his liking. This is what the Bible says about it in Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 through 7. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. So this immortal, all-knowing, all-loving God regrets the human race and all the creatures on the earth, because this all-knowing God had regrets. Personally, if I know something without a doubt, then I wouldn't waste my time doing it. So he tries to wipe everything from the earth, effectively through G-side of everything, not just humanity. But this all-knowing being fails. But he knew he would fail because he was all-knowing before he attempted it. But did it anyways, knowing he would fail. So unintentionally alive to everyone. For what? For shits and giggles? I don't know. Except 8 people to start an inbred species that continued to sin, even allowing one of the survivors to curse his own child into slavery, which this all-loving God takes no issue with, as he has no real issues with slavery. In the Bible, there's specific instructions on how to beat slaves. It's found in Exodus 21, verses 20 and 21. If a man beats his male or female slave with a rod, and the slave dies as a direct result, he must be punished. But he is not to be punished if the slave gets up after a day or two, since the slave is his property. These verses describe a scenario where a master beats a slave with a rod, and if the slave dies immediately as a result, the master must be punished, though the specific punishment for the master is not stated. It could be something as insignificant as a small fine for all we know, because, after all, the slave is his property, according to the Bible. However, if the slave survives for a day or two after the beating, the master is not to be punished, as the slave is considered the master's property. So if the slave is bleeding internally after the beating and dies a week later instead of 2 days, then it's all good, and it isn't unaliving or anything, because he's property after all. These are the instructions from an all-loving God. And I want to point out that an all-loving God would condemn slavery outright. The goddess Asherah and the morning star would never approve of owning another human, whether it's chattel slavery or indentured servitude or anything in between, as owning another human being is wrong. I don't even refer to myself as my dog's owner. I am her guardian, and she is my companion, not my pet. Then the same immortal being takes a 33 or so year vacation from being endlessly worshipped to join the species he created, that he regretted creating, mind you, to chill out on Earth, where he does not imbibe in any of the earthly pleasures, even though he went on vacation from his immortal home because, what, boredom? And claims that he is his own son and he is going to sacrifice himself, but only for 3 days, just to pop back up and rejoin the friends he made, say everything's all good as long as you believe and ask to be forgiven, no matter what manner of pain you caused, because it's okay, because you said you were sorry, even if you caused the unliving of thousands or even millions of people. Then dips back to his immortal realm to enjoy the memories of his little vacay on Earth. But he didn't have any fun on his vacay and actually accomplished nothing. We don't believe this BS of a story because it's completely ridiculous. There is no way that an immortal being who is all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful would do the things stated in the Bible. Yahweh sees us as ants, and he is the kid with magnifying glass. He used a few chosen men to do his bidding, which tended to include threatening people, which kind of negates the all-loving, all-merciful part. An all-knowing God would have known that his plan to destroy evil with a flood would fail. An all-loving God would not allow children to suffer from cancer, from abusive parents, from birth defects, you name it. And an all-merciful God would not have created a place to punish those who lead good lives, who help others, but because they don't believe in him when he shows no proof of his existence, they are damned from birth. My biggest proof that Yahweh is evil is simply by looking at the actions of his followers on every single TikTok video I make. They are bullies and trolls and use their God to threaten me. They're as evil as the God they follow. We believe that Yahweh, the evil creator God, who rules through fear, had nothing to do with the creation of Jesus, the messenger of light and love. He was the child of the mother goddess Asherah, who sent him to spread her message of light and love. We believe that Jesus did enjoy physical intimacy because it is a gift of the gods, but only enjoyed it with one woman, Mary Magdalene, and one man, the disciple John, the disciple that Jesus loved. His entire ministry, he enjoyed their company. And since physical intimacy is not a sin, he was still sinless. Jesus spoke of forgiveness, even if you don't think that person deserves it, because hatred can weigh on your heart. He spoke of love, kindness, and compassion, because these are how the goddess Asherah and her consort, the light bearer, wished her children to behave. Even kindness to those you may not believe deserve it, because it's not about justice. It's about your own compassion. Yahweh caused the unaliving of Jesus to stop the spread of that message of light and to corrupt Jesus' followers. While Jesus could have stopped it, he didn't want his lasting message to be one of selfishness, but one of selflessness. He knew if he went and suffered, then his apostles would be safe. His apostles were his brothers. They were his family, and he wanted to be sure they were safe. Yahweh knew Jesus would not risk the lives of his friends to save his own. The morning star gave Jesus 40 days, or almost 6 weeks, to say goodbye to his brothers, his friends, and his loved ones, to leave them a lasting message that death was not the end, and one day they would be together again. This was the lasting message of the Son of Light. This is not the end, but when you pass from our Mother Earth to the realm of the gods, you will be judged, not by your beliefs and faith, but by your actions. Who did you help? And who did you hurt? Make sure that who you help far outweighs who you hurt in life. Offer forgiveness, not because someone deserves it, but because you do. Do not hate, as hate corrupts. And finally, from Luke 6, verse 31, Jesus says, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." Basically, it means to be kind as you would like others to be kind to you, and try to make sure that your light outweighs the darkness in your own life. I'm Elder Eliza with the Garden of Light. If you like my content, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Blessed be my friends, and remember, the flowers are blooming in Antarctica.